Tarps Off Sports.
Bang! We are back for another episode of the Tarps Off UK MMA podcast with myself, Jack Gotzel, and Frank Bonata. We have a ton of good stuff for you today. Well, not as much stuff because we don't have UFC, we don't have Bellator this weekend, but there's still some great Cage Warriors fights that got announced. And we had the UFC event last week. That was a great one, Font versus Garbrandt. But let's start off with that the two Cage Warriors fights here that are two big ones. And obviously we have a Frenchman, Morgan Charrier, in the main event there. He's coming off of a loss, but he's going to get that immediate rematch. A bit of a controversial fight. How did you think that first fight went, Frank?
Yeah, it was super tight, but I did actually score it for Charrier. It really could go either way. But I think I was live reporting on that fight, and as it was going round by round, I was like, okay, that round to Charrier, that round to Charrier, Vucinic. It was super tight, but I think I just gave it 3-2 to Charrier, and deserved of the rematch. I think just to clear this one up, get it locked in, and it's a great rematch. The first fight was electric, and I expect this one to be as well. How did you score the first one?
I also scored it for Charrier, but when the decision came down, I wasn't running to Twitter and saying like he got screwed and like that was a terrible decision. I really could have seen it going either way. I mean, that's why you just can't leave it in the judges' hands, especially in a title fight or that top contender fight. I mean, you gotta try to finish. He did not do that. It was super, super close. I don't think that they're going to let it go to the judges' scorecards in this fight coming up. I think they're both going to be looking to finish because I don't think that if it's close this time, they're going to take it away from Charrier. I think if it's close, it's going to go to him just because the judges are humans and they're going to watch that last fight. And some of them will probably think that one should have gone to Morgan Charrier. So I think we see a finish in this one. And Boylan, the president of Cage Warriors over there, or the owner, he even said, I don't think this one's going the distance. These two guys are going to look to finish and look to make a statement and prove who is the better fighter. How do you see this one going? Do you think Charrier takes it this time? And how do you think he does it, if so?
Well, I think Charrier definitely can. And that was the thing last time. There were moments where Charrier looked excellent and where he turned it on and he started flowing. But the issue was last time out, I thought he was so stop-starty. There was sort of like a unwillingness to engage with Vucinic that saw him lose his title in the end. I think Charrier hits harder, and I think Charrier is faster. But Vucinic is super tough. Like, he can take a lot of punishment. But if Charrier really turns it up early on, there were moments where he definitely stunned Vucinic in that first fight. So if he turns it up and really lets him have it early on, I think a KO stoppage is defo an option. But if he does that, you run the risk of running out that gas tank. And Vucinic has shown time and time again that he's got great stamina. So that could completely turn the tables. We don't know.
Yeah, and Vucinic has won his last 3 fights, I believe, all by split decision. So he tends to somehow come out top in those close fights. But Charrier definitely has that knockout power. We've obviously seen it time and time again. And I think he is going to be a future star. I think he does make his way to the UFC. I think it's going to take him a couple more fights now after that setback that we had last time. I think he gets the win here, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough just yet to get that call from Dana White. I think he's going to need 1 or 2 more wins after this one. But then we had another great fight that got announced. I believe it's Lockdar versus Redmond in another main event. I believe it's the main event for the Cage Warriors before that, because it is a trilogy again. So I think that's 124, 123. That is the main event.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fun one. Redmond's really been around the block. He started at Cage Warriors years ago. He made his way to the UFC and picked up back-to-back losses, unfortunately, including a loss to Mirsad Bektic, who at the time was this big up-and-coming prospect. Got cut from the UFC, sort of plays the journeyman role and starts fighting for KSW and Bellator. And now it's gone full circle, and he's back at Cage Warriors, this time sort of playing the gatekeeper role against a really exciting, up-and-coming, undefeated prospect.
Yeah, and he is undefeated. I mean, it's a tough fight, and it's a really good one. I love seeing these vets versus the rising stars. We've seen how it can end for the prospects, though, and sometimes they go on to be way better fighters than who they lose to. But this is a big test, and this is gonna, determine the speed of the trajectory of his career. I'm not saying if he loses this, he's never gonna go on and fight in one of those big promotions like Bellator or the UFC or one championship, but it would be a major setback and a major propellant if he can actually get the win here. How do you see that fight going?
To be honest, I really don't know. You have fights like these where it's a tried and untested prospect coming up against someone who has bags of experience, but was never quite able to, completely make it at the top. But Cage Warriors do this so well, where they repeatedly pick up these people who have competed in the UFC, competed in Bellator, maybe not quite made it, and then sign them, and they use them as litmus tests against their prospects. So I have no idea how it's going to go. It's more like you say, if he does get the win, then that shows that he's of a higher level caliber than everyone else around him, and is ready for like a next step up.
Yeah, and if Redmond does get the takedown and takes him to the ground, it's going to be a huge test. I mean, he does have. We've seen him get tapped. We've seen him tap out opponents. We haven't really seen Lakhdar really take advantage of that ground and really go against a high level ground guy like he's going to in Redmond. So I think we're going to get a lot of questions answered about this young prospect, and that's a super exciting fight. And we had some other exciting fights earlier with the UFC event. We had Cody Garbrandt versus Rob Font. Obviously, my Boston boy, Rob Font, took the W. Pretty decisive fashion, 50-45. Cody just, we've seen that chin questioned. He was moving backwards a lot. I almost wonder if he was questioning his chin, just kind of trying to survive. We didn't see him generate really any offense almost the entire fight. What were your thoughts on that fight?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can question his chin too much. Maybe his mentality surrounding his chin, but he actually took a lot of what Font had to throw over 5 rounds, which is impressive considering his last 3 losses are all by KO. But Font looked incredible, I thought. The boxing fundamentals are there. He just fought off his jab for 5 rounds and looked incredible doing it. Garbrandt, a few times you saw him put his back to the cage and start dipping the head like he did when he knocked out Sun Tzu. And Font was just not having that. He used his range just to throw out the jab and snap Cody's head back, and Cody just had nothing to do. He had no answer for it, essentially. And yeah, also Font's, so he was using the boxing fundamentals mainly, but his use of the front kick I thought was really nice as well, sort of covering ground and sapping Garbrandt's stamina. So yeah, all round really good performance for someone who's put himself right in the title picture, if not immediately, in the near future.
Oh, yeah, he's got to be in that title picture. And then we have Dillashaw versus Sandhagen, which got announced for, I believe, July 24th. So obviously, I feel like the winner of that is probably going to get the title unless they book Rob Font versus Peter Yan, I guess, right now for an interim bout because Sterling's still sidelined. So that division's a little chaotic there. But I think Font proved to people that him and Calvin Kattar in this fight are not at all the same. They train out of the same gym. They're both from Massachusetts, but Calvin Kattar is a brawler. Calvin Kattar's going in there. He's looking to knock you out. Rob Font is looking to knock you out, but a completely different way. He likes to step back. He likes to pick his shots and then build up over time, find that shot, and then get you. That's why I call him almost like a sniper, because he's setting it all up. He's not just going there, rushing in and looking for the big knockout. But we did see another big knockout on that UFC card, and that was Esparza. That was such an impressive performance. I mean, that division is top, and I think she may have done enough to possibly get a title shot in her next fight.
Yeah, I agree. It's the fight to make, you know. Esparza is one of the few people out there to have beaten Rose Namajunas. Of course, yeah, beat her in the tough final to get the strawweight belt back in the day. And you know, since then she's had a lot of decision victories. That's been the big issue with Carla Esparza. That was not the case Saturday night. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen people say like it could just be an issue of Xiaonan having a complete lack of defensive wrestling. But you know, either way, you know, she's still a top level mixed martial artist.
Oh, absolutely.
And Esparza, not even just in one round, 2 rounds, took her down, got into the crucifix, and just bust her up completely. Absolutely dominant display of wrestling. And yeah, I say give her the title shot.
I think the only thing that could possibly stand in the way of her getting the title shot is if Joanna Jędrzejczyk decides to come back. I mean, it's got to be one of those two next. I just don't think they're going to give Weili Zhang the immediate rematch, even though if it were up to me and I was the matchmaker, that's what I would do, because she did win. It was a ridiculous amount. It was like 13 or 15 fights in a row, something like that, before she finally lost to Rose. So I would have given her the immediate rematch. They're not going to do that. So it's got to be Jędrzejczyk or Esparza. And I would really like to see them give it to Esparza, but we'll see. I mean, that Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight does make a lot of dollars and cents with Rose Namajunas, and usually the UFC does like to lean that way. It's not always about what makes sense. It's more about what makes dollars and cents. So we'll see there. And then there was a guy where I feel as if we're almost both on the fence about him, with Hermansson. He did get the victory, and he moved up. He's now 6th in the rankings. But I'm a little nervous for him with the guys that are above him in that division. How do you feel about Hermansson going forward?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the issue, isn't it? He is good. Like he's deserving of a spot in the top 10. That much is like clear. But yeah, he got rocked early on against Shabazian. Shabazian hits real hard. You know, he's almost like a round and a half fighter. Shabazian is, and he had Hermansson in trouble. But Hermansson's almost got that sort of veteran savvy now, where he's completely capable of taking someone down, and he's got super high level jiu-jitsu and really good chain wrestling as well. If you noticed, he would shoot him for a shot. First time it wouldn't be successful, but he'd persistently keep going for it and drive Shabazian into the ground. And you know, it paid dividends for him by the end of you know, the 3rd round. Shabazian are completely gassed, and Hermansson's just beating him up on the ground. The thing is, though, those guys in that top 5, they're not sort of they're not rookies, are they? They're not people who make mistakes like that. I mean, he is one of definitely the better grapplers up there. And you saw him go 5 rounds with Marvin Vettori in like a sort of striking display that he did definitely lose, but gave a good account of himself. I don't know. I like him. I just like him as a person. But
Yeah.
I just what he called out either the winner of Cannonier, Costa, or Till and Brunson. And any of those fights, I just think it's a rough time for Hermansson. I don't know. What do you think?
I think those are very tough fights. Well, I mean, you have to kind of see how they're going to play out, too. I mean, obviously, I think Darren Till versus him would be a nightmare for you to watch, because you love both those fighters. But yeah, I mean, they're all vets. They're all high-level guys. I mean, it is a tough fight, any of those guys. Maybe this is as far as Hermansson goes. And I mean, he is a top 10, top 7, top 8 guy. He's in that group. You can't take anything away from him. He is one of the best in the world, but I think he might be at the end of the road here for as far as he goes.
I'd fancy his chances against Paulo Costa, actually. I don't rate Paulo Costa much at all. I don't think he deserves to be in that top 5, and I don't think his ground game would stack up with Hermansson's. But anyone else, I think, is a tough fight.
Wow, that's a hot take alert. Now you got me excited. I want to see that fight.
Yeah,
we'll see
me
how
too.
Costa does.
I don't know. I think, honestly, I think Costa is a tad overrated. He's got some big wins over some fading veterans in like Johnny Hendricks and Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall's still good, but he's not as good. Yeah, I don't think he deserves to be up there, and I think Jared Cannonier is going to piece him apart. But if not, feed him to the Joker, feed him to Hermansson.
Yeah, I didn't really like the excuses that Costa was using after his loss. Like, I was drunk the night before or whatever. I don't buy it. I'm selling on that excuse. I don't want to call him a liar, but I don't think he was being extremely truthful about everything. But I still think he's an excellent fighter. I think Costa is good. I do think he belongs in that top 5. But I mean, hey, they're all gonna fight. It's all gonna play out, and that's why this sport's so awesome. Anything else you got for us today, Frank? Or
not really. Oh, actually, just that we've had 2 fights for British fighters been booked, both for June 19th. Davy Grant versus Chito Vera, absolute banger of a fight at bantamweight. And then also Danny Roberts versus Tim Means as well.
hell yeah,
Middleweight. So yeah, that's 2 good UK fights. Especially the Davy Grant fight. His recent KO over Jonathan Martinez was just amazing. He throws a body shot, takes like a clip to the jaw, and then just lunges with his left hand. Like, doesn't care that he's getting hit in the process, and just KOs him straight. Beautiful.
well, I loved that fight because that was part of one of my parlays that hit big. So I was definitely a big fan of that one.
I bet. Yeah, but apart from that, I think that's it.
Yeah, and do you want to let the people know where they can find you?
Yeah, of course. So catch me on Twitter at BernardaBoy, BonadaBoi. And then I'm on Instagram as well at Frank Bernarda.
Bang. And you can find me on Twitter at Jack Gottsell, JackGotsell. Struggling today. But that's all we got for you. No UFC, no Bellator, but we'll be back next week with a much bigger